Today we discover a story where a quiet life is shattered by an extraordinary secret. Samuel Washington, a humble hospital worker, loses his beloved wife Lorraine, only to find she's left behind not just memories, but a hidden fortune meant to change the world. Shock turns to courage as Samuel faces elite families, social prejudice, and the pressures surrounding his son's high-stakes wedding. In a breathtaking moment, dignity triumphs over wealth, reshaping relationships and forging an unforgettable legacy. Lorraine's fortune becomes a force for good, sparking a foundation that lifts children and unites communities. Grief gives way to hope as ordinary routines transform into lifelong impact, and one small family's love ripples through an entire city. Subscribe and hit like. Our powerful stories add years to your life. Join our Story Lovers Club and let us know in the comments, where are you listening from? Have you ever wondered how one random act of kindness could unlock a fate unimaginable? In the heart of a bustling Nigerian city, young Amaka roamed the streets, scavenging through trash heaps and alleyways each evening, searching for anything that could keep her and her frail mother alive for another day. Life had never been gentle to Amaka. Poverty was a thief that had stolen her childhood, replaced it with hunger, uncertainty, and lonely nights. Yet, beneath her worn-out clothes and calloused hands, her soul glowed with hope and compassion. It was on one smoky, restless night, as the city's neon lights bled into the blackness and thunder rolled in the distance, that Amaka's destiny would take an unexpected turn. A faint, pitiful cry reached her ears as she passed behind a row of overflowing dumpsters. A sound so raw, so desperate, it froze her in place. Was it an injured animal? Or could it be something worse? Amaka approached with cautious steps, heart pounding, gripping her plastic bag tightly, like a shield against the world. Nestled amongst the refuse, barely shielded from the elements by a battered cloth, lay a tiny baby girl. Her dark skin shimmered with cold sweat, and her cries trembled with distress and innocence. Most people in this city hurried past suffering, eyes averted. But Amaka's instinct was different. Her heart broke wide open for this little one. Without hesitating, she scooped the baby into her arms, whispering soothing words, shielding her from the chill winds and the prying eyes of those who would judge. How could someone abandon a child so vulnerable? Amaka's mind raced with questions and a surge of protective love. She noticed a gold necklace around the infant's neck, delicate and ornate, glinting even in the dim light of the alley. It looked expensive, an heirloom that didn't belong in the hands of poverty or despair. Was this child lost, forgotten, or discarded? With no time to think, Amaka wrapped her jacket around the baby and hurried back to her shack. Inside their small shack, assembled from scraps and cardboard, Amaka's mother, Mama Ngozi, was startled at the sight of the baby. Frail and bedridden, she stared at Amaka, confusion turning into concern. Amaka explained everything: the eerie cry, the lonely alley, the necklace, and her decision to bring the child home. Mama Ngozi's heart broke as she gazed at the baby. She remembered the pain of losing her own children to illness and hardship, and now, faced with this fragile new life, she whispered a quiet prayer. They named the little one Chimamanda, meaning "my God will not fail." That night, as rain battered the tin roof and the world seemed cold, Amaka and her mother did their best to feed and comfort Chimamanda, sharing what little they had left. A family was born in that shack, one not bound by blood, but by courage, heartbreak, and immense love. Far across town, in a mansion crowded with luxury and sorrow, Chief Anduka sat in a gilded armchair, staring at the portrait of his late wife, Lady Chika. She had been taken from him too soon, dying while giving birth to their newborn daughter. Grief clung to Chief Anduka like a shadow. His only joy, the baby girl, had mysteriously disappeared weeks ago, torn from his arms by a betrayal he never saw coming. The entire country buzzed with news of his heartbreak, the missing child, and the enormous reward for her safe return. While his wealth soared, his spirit crumbled under suspicion, bitterness, and loss. Yet he clung to hope, a hope embodied in the golden necklace his wife had gifted the baby, a symbol of the bond between past and future. In the city's darkest corners, his loyal men searched, relentless and desperate, praying for even the smallest sign that Chimamanda was alive. The days blurred together as Amaka struggled to keep her small family alive. She begged for milk and food for the infant, braving the jeers and harsh words of neighbors who mocked her generosity. "Feed your own," they scolded, but Amaka's resolve never weakened. She saw herself reflected in Chimamanda's innocent eyes, a survivor, a fighter, worthy of love, regardless of circumstance. Each day, she balanced trash picking in the markets with caring for both her mother and the baby. There were moments she felt hopeless and shattered, kneeling beside her mother's thin mattress at night, praying fiercely for strength. The city's cruel indifference only made her protect Chimamanda more fiercely, promising never to abandon her as others had. Meanwhile, the golden necklace remained a mystery, one Amaka didn't dare solve, not knowing it was the lifeline to a world of power, privilege, and reunion she never dreamed was possible. Chief Anduka's search continued, spreading from the capital to every dusty corner of the nation. The police interrogated staff, relatives, and friends, as rumors swirled about who might have stolen his child and why. Agents offered rewards, flooded the city with flyers, and interviewed countless hopefuls who claimed to have information. But none led to the lost baby. Behind closed doors, Chief Anduka wept to his daughter's empty crib, holding the matching necklace his wife had set aside. Meanwhile, Amaka's daily struggle grew heavier. The little shack flooded often, and a persistent cough tormented Mama Ngozi. Still, Amaka's bond with Chimamanda deepened. She sang to her softly, invented stories to make Chimamanda giggle, and rocked her through nights filled with buzzing mosquitoes and distant sirens. Every new sunrise brought not only fatigue, but also the strengthening of a love that defied desperation. Amaka found the resolve to shelter hope, refusing to let poverty destroy her humanity. One day, as the sun beat relentlessly on their battered roof, Amaka noticed that Chimamanda was unwell. Fever flushed the baby's cheeks. Her cries grew weak, and Amaka panicked. Memories of losing siblings to illness surged with dread. She wrapped Chimamanda tightly and rushed to a shabby local clinic. The nurse eyed them with suspicion, demanding payment for help Amaka couldn't afford. Despair flooded Amaka. She pleaded, offering to clean the clinic or fetch water. The nurse relented, giving the baby medicine, while Amaka whispered gratitude through tears. Outside, the world kept turning, but inside, Amaka's world burned with anxiety and hope. She didn't see herself as a savior, only a girl fighting against impossible odds for a child whose fate was now inseparable from her own. The necklace glimmered against Chimamanda's chest, an enigma she'd learned to protect like a secret, unsure of its real power and meaning. As Chimamanda slowly recovered under Amaka's devoted care, the story of Chief Unduka's missing child simmered in the background. Every day, radio broadcasts echoed news of a golden necklace and the billionaire's desperate plea for help. Amaka listened absently, sometimes picturing a palace, but she always returned to the reality of feeding mouths and fighting rain. That same evening, while scavenging near the city's main market, Amaka overheard strangers discussing the search for the lost heiress. Their voices grew animated, describing the necklace in detail. Her heart skipped as she realized they were talking about the one around Chimamanda's neck. Fear mixed with hope. Could her adopted sister really be the missing child everyone sought? Conflicted, she hurried home, clutching Chimamanda close. The night was thick with uncertainty, Amaka torn between the need to protect the child and the rising possibility of transforming both their lives forever. Mama Ngozi encouraged Amaka to listen to her heart. Love doesn't ask for reward, her mother whispered. But Amaka longed for answers, imagining what could happen if Chimamanda's family found her. She dreamed of healing her mother's sickness and escaping the cycle of poverty. Still, fear haunted her. Would they be grateful, or would they punish her for keeping the child? Days passed as Amaka wrestled with her conscience before finally deciding to visit the church, hoping for guidance. There she knelt, clutching Chimamanda, and begged God for a sign. The priest noticed the gold necklace, his eyes widening in recognition. He questioned Amaka, who nervously revealed all she knew. Take her to the authorities, the priest urged kindly. Torn between trust and doubt, Amaka held Chimamanda, vowing never to let harm come to her. She gathered her courage, ready to risk everything to give Chimamanda the future she deserved. The next morning, Amaka wrapped Chimamanda in her safest blanket and set out, her resolve strong. The city was alive with traffic and noise, but Amaka felt she moved in her own silent bubble. She walked to the nearest police station, heart thudding with fear and anticipation. There, officers listened as she explained where she'd found the child, presenting the golden necklace. The station buzzed with excitement and concern. It didn't take long for word to reach the authorities, charged with Chief Unduka's case. Amaka was kept waiting for hours, her nerves stretched thin. Finally, a stately man in a polished suit arrived, accompanied by official-looking aides. He stared at the baby, his face pale with hope and disbelief as he examined the necklace. Could the impossible be true? Had fate really brought their missing heiress to this humble, brave trash picker? Chief Anduka arrived at the station, moving swiftly, yet with weary eyes, clouded by endless grief. The moment his gaze landed on the baby, cradled in Amaka's arms, a trembling overtook him. For a split second, the room fell silent. Every officer took a breath, watching for a miracle. Chief Anduka reached out to touch the golden necklace, his hands shaking, hope and dread tangled within. Amaka wanted to retreat, remembering every cruel glance she'd ever received, but her spirit held firm. The chief's voice broke as he whispered, "Is this truly my daughter?" Tears streamed down his cheeks as he recognized the mark his late wife had placed on the necklace. He collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by gratitude and sorrow, unable to speak. Amaka watched, uncertain whether she'd achieved salvation or stepped into danger. The energy in the room shifted. Those present understood that a lost child had found her way home, and that nothing would be the same. The reunion set the city ablaze. News outlets flooded the streets, eager to broadcast every detail of the miraculous discovery. Amaka, once invisible in the crowd, became the center of attention. Crowds gathered outside the station, journalists shouting questions, cameras flashing. But for Amaka, the moment was intensely personal. She worried about Chimamanda, who clung to her, wide-eyed and fearful amidst the chaos. Chief Anduka thanked Amaka publicly, offering her a reward and promising to care for her and her mother. Yet the deeper story unfolded away from the cameras. Amaka's courage and resilience had sparked a wave of hope through the city. In his mansion, Chief Anduka embraced Chimamanda, vowing never to let her out of his sight again. Still, he did not forget the girl who had saved his family, whose selfless act had rewritten the fate of his lost daughter. Amaka's life was forever changed. In the days that followed, Amaka struggled with her new reality. The sudden fame weighed on her, and she found herself homesick for the quiet darkness of her shack. Despite the poverty and hardship, Mama Ngozi's health improved. Thanks to Chief Anduka's generosity, a comfortable home and medical care were provided. But Amaka feared losing the bond she'd fought so hard for. She often visited Chimamanda in the mansion, sharing songs and stories, hoping the baby would remember her warmth and protection. Lady Chika's portrait watched over them, a silent guardian. Chief Anduka realized that Amaka was more than a rescuer. She was family. Lessons bloom. He invited her and Mama Ngozi to stay, insisting their presence brought comfort. Amaka's tears flowed freely as she saw her prayers answered. Yet a part of her grieved for all those children who still wandered the streets, their own miracles waiting to happen. The city buzzed with the tale of Amaka's bravery and the billionaire's gratitude. Her story offered hope to everyone who had ever felt invisible. Teachers and volunteers arrived with gifts and supplies, determined to honor her sacrifice. Amaka grew more confident, speaking about her experiences to local children and inspiring them to value kindness, courage, and resilience. Mama Ngozi became a mother figure to many, her wisdom spreading far beyond their family. Chief Nduka used his influence to build shelters and support systems for street children, pledging that no child should ever be abandoned again. As weeks passed, Amaka discovered joy in helping others and found a sense of belonging she'd never felt in her old neighborhood. Yet, she never forgot the night that changed everything. The lonely alley, the cry, the baby, wrapped in a golden necklace. It was a story her heart insisted on telling for the rest of her life. Amaka's transformation sparked greater change than she ever dared imagine. She enrolled in school with other young survivors, determined to become a doctor who would heal the sick and protect those. Chimamanda grew strong, surrounded by love from both families. Her days were filled with laughter and gentle encouragement from Amaka and Mama Ngozi, who never let her forget where she came from. The city remembered Amaka not as a poor girl who found a lost child, but as a symbol of hope and unconditional love. As she walked the mansion gardens, she paused to thank the stars, believing that kindness could conquer even the greatest despair. Amaka learned to trust in miracles, embracing the new life she'd given not only to Chimamanda, but to herself, her mother, and every child still lost in the world. With her future unfolding, Amaka felt a new weight. Responsibility not just for her own life, but for the lives she'd touched. She visited children's shelters funded by Chief Nduka, sharing her journey and listening to their dreams. Some nights, she lay awake, haunted by memories of the street, the hunger, danger, and cold. In those moments, she refused to forget where she came from, or the families still trapped in poverty's grip. Mama Ngozi often reminded her, "Your story is a gift you must share." Amaka began writing her experiences in a journal, capturing each challenge and triumph. Her words reached local leaders and activists, amplifying the voices of those suffering in silence. She created a project with Chief Nduka to ensure that every child received opportunities for education and care. Lessons bloom. Amaka's pain became power, her longing became purpose, and her new life became a beacon for those still fighting for survival. Slowly, Amaka built bridges with Chief Nduka's extended family. Some had resented the attention she received, believing her presence threatened their privileged world. Others viewed her story as a disruption of tradition, but Amaka chose kindness and honesty, sharing meals and stories whenever possible. Lady Chika's legacy, her compassion and determination, was alive in Amaka and Chimamanda's bond. The mansion echoed with new laughter and friendship, and the old rivalries began to soften. In moments of uncertainty, Amaka recalled the decision that began it all, choosing love over indifference. She never asked for riches or fame. All she wanted was to be seen. Over time, Her humility won respect from even the harshest critics, and many who doubted her now trusted her to help guide Chimamanda as she grew. Seasonal festivals in the family home became celebrations of unity, with Amaka and Chimamanda always at their heart. As months turned into years, Amaka flourished. She achieved excellent grades, learned leadership, and supported Mama Ngozi as she recovered. Her heart remained tender, cherishing small joys. A rainy day spent cooking with her mother. The delighted squeal of Chimamanda playing in the garden. Long walks with Chief Anduka discussing dreams for Nigeria's forgotten children. Amaka spoke at conferences, encouraging young girls to stand strong against the odds and to never stop believing in miracles. Her story inspired scholarships, international aid, and renewed hope across the country. Yet her humility endured. Every time she saw an abandoned street, she remembered her own journey, quietly resolving to never turn away from suffering again. The golden necklace remained a symbol, worn by Chimamanda and sometimes borrowed by Amaka herself during special occasions, a reminder of the night their destinies first intertwined. One anniversary of Chimamanda's rescue, the mansion hosted a celebration. Dignitaries, neighbors, and charity workers arrived, all touched by the family's transformation. Amaka nervously addressed the guests, sharing her story with raw honesty. She spoke of courage born from loss, the miraculous moment in the alley, the bonds of sisterhood and faith. Her words moved the room to tears. During the event, Mama Ngozi embraced Amaka, whispering affirmations that soared above the crowd. Chief Nduka thanked her, announcing new scholarships and funding for more shelters, honoring Amaka's empathy and leadership. Chimamanda, now walking and giggling, grasped Amaka's hand tightly. A portrait was unveiled. Amaka, Chimamanda, and Mama Ngozi, together, immortalized as a family bound not by blood, but by heart. It wasn't just a party, it was the beginning of a legacy built on kindness and courage. As the years passed, Amaka continued to defy expectations. She studied medicine while volunteering in outreach programs. Her face became a beacon on campaign posters, her voice an anthem for justice and compassion. Amaka never allowed her fame to isolate her. She remained grounded, often visiting old friends in the slums, offering hope and assistance. Her faith and resilience made her a leader for a new generation. Children looked to her, inspired to believe in their own worth. Lessons bloom. Some called her God's answer to loneliness. Through all the change, the bond with Chimamanda strengthened. The two sisters shared everything: laughter, hardship, joy, and dreams. Amaka's own heart healed bit by bit, growing stronger each day. And as Chief Anduka's family embraced Amaka fully, their mansion became more than a home. It became a haven for miracles, a place where love rewrote every story, one act of kindness at a time. One crisp morning, Amaka sat in the garden watching Chimamanda chase butterflies. The sun filtered through the trees, glittering across the golden necklace, A quiet sense of gratitude filled Amaka as she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She remembered every hardship, each moment of fear and loneliness, and how all of it had been transformed by a single act of courage. Sometimes she wondered what her life would have looked like if she had chosen not to stop in that alley, if she had ignored the helpless cry. Those thoughts always reminded her that destiny often arrives softly, hidden beneath the noise of everyday struggles. As Chimamanda squealed in excitement, Amaka knew that her purpose was not just to change her own fortunes, but to help others recognize their own moments of destiny. The garden bloomed with hope, just as her future blossomed beyond anything she had ever dared to dream. Amaka's reputation continued to grow, drawing invitations from around the country to speak at schools and empower underserved communities. With each journey, she met children who reminded her of herself, eyes wide with hope but burdened by life's hardships. She told them, "Even when you feel invisible, you matter. Your kindness can be the beginning of a miracle." These words ignited sparks in their hearts. She encouraged girls to pursue their education, teaching them that even the smallest voice had power. Lessons bloom. Sometimes she brought Chimamanda along, sharing the extraordinary bond they shared, and demonstrating that family is created by love, not circumstance. Mama Ngozi joined them, her wisdom and humor endearing her to everyone they met. Together, they offered more than charity. They gave others living proof of change. By listening to the stories of others, Amaka's own wounds continued to heal, her sorrows replaced at last by hope. Despite the joy, Amaka never lost sight of her roots. She often visited the humble neighborhood where she grew up, ensuring that nobody ever felt abandoned the way she once did. Sometimes the new comforts of her life felt unreal, and she would walk barefoot through the mud and dust, reconnecting with memories that were both painful and precious. She helped rebuild schools, created scholarships, and set up food banks so no child would go hungry. With Chief Onduka's unwavering support, these changes quickly spread throughout the city. Amaka worked long hours in clinics and classrooms, driven by a deep yearning to create a society where every child could thrive. At night, she wrote letters to herself and to Chimamanda, promising never to let success separate her from compassion. These private words reminded her that every victory was shared with her community and those who had believed in her first. Lessons bloom. In time, the country celebrated Amaka as a hero. Though she always insisted, she was simply a girl who listened to her heart. Still, the media painted her as a symbol of hope, someone who bore witness to adversity and transformed pain into healing for others. Foundations bore her name, schools were dedicated in her honor, and every year the city hosted a festival highlighting resilience and compassion. Amaka would lead parades with children who had once been homeless or lost, dancing and laughing in streets that were once filled only with despair. Through it all, Chimamanda skipped beside her, beaming with innocent pride. Mama Ngozi, now healthy and fulfilled, watched her daughter take flight in ways she never dared to imagine. Each celebration reminded the city, and especially Amaka, that true greatness is measured not by wealth, but by the number of lives lifted from the darkness by a single light. One evening, under a sky painted with stars, Amaka sat with Chimamanda and Mama Ngozi, telling stories of the past, of alleys and miracles, of hunger and hope, of an orphan who became a sister, and a stranger who became family. They laughed, sometimes cried, and always ended in gratitude. Life had not given Amaka what she expected, but it had gifted her so much more: courage, love, and a sense of purpose that reached far beyond her own happiness. She taught Chimamanda about the power of forgiveness and the strength that comes from helping others. As the night drew to a close, Amaka made a silent promise to keep giving, to remain humble, and to never let go of the kindness that changed everything. For in her heart, she understood that true miracles begin with those who dare to act, to care, and to love when it matters most. The following year brought new challenges. A terrible storm struck the city, flooding neighborhoods and displacing hundreds of families. Amaka sprang into action, coordinating rescue efforts and organizing volunteers, her experience with hardship fueling her determination. She led teams through waterlogged streets, distributing food, blankets, and medicine. Chimamanda, still young but inspired by her sister's unwavering spirit, handed out dry clothes and offered comfort to frightened children. Mama Ngozi turned their home into a refuge for those who had nowhere to go. Their mansion echoed with voices from all walks of life, united by crisis, yet uplifted by kindness. In the darkest hours, Amaka found herself leading by example, reminding everyone that even in the face of disaster, solidarity and hope could prevail. The community rebuilt, stronger and more connected, holding Amaka's selflessness close as a model for all. Lessons bloom. When the storm finally passed, Amaka stood with Chief Onduka and Mama Ngozi overlooking the renewed city. She realized that miracles did not always come in dramatic flashes. They sometimes arrived as the quiet strength that kept people going. The gratitude of those she helped was immeasurable. Errands named newborns after her. Local artists painted murals of her, Chimamanda and Mama Ngozi standing together against the storm. Amaka accepted these honors with humility, insisting that it was a collective effort that turned tragedy into triumph. In private moments, she reflected on the future and the legacy she was building, not just of material aid, but of empowering others to stand for themselves and each other. Inspired by her experience, Amaka decided to pursue her dream of building a hospital that would serve anyone in need, whether rich or poor. Fundraising for the hospital became Amaka's new quest. She spoke passionately at events, met with donors, and traveled across the country sharing her vision. The challenges were immense, with setbacks and doubts creeping into sleepless nights. Yet Amaka pressed on, buoyed by support from Chimamanda, Mama Ngozi, and Chief Anduka. The community rallied, each contribution, no matter how small, pushing the dream closer to reality. On the day of the groundbreaking, excitement filled the air. Former street children, now thriving, joined village elders, doctors, and teachers in celebration. Amaka placed the first stone, holding Chimamanda's hand. Together, they planted hope that would blossom for generations. The hospital was more than a building. It was a promise that no one would be left behind or unseen. A living testament to what love and perseverance could build. Years passed, and the hospital became a symbol of healing and unity. Amaka, now a young doctor, oversaw its daily operations with deep compassion. Her life story inspired her colleagues to treat each patient with dignity, regardless of status. Chimamanda volunteered in the children's ward, bringing joy with her laughter and warmth, while Mama Ngozi managed a kitchen that served nourishing meals to families in need. Lessons bloom. The hospital's walls were covered in drawings and stories from patients whose lives had been transformed. Amaka often found herself reflecting on the twists of fate. The night she answered a baby's cry, the pain of loss, the surge of hope, and ultimately, the sense of belonging she had built for herself and countless others. She understood now, as she guided patients and mentored students, that her journey had always been about finding her true family through acts of kindness. As Amaka gazed out from her office window at sunset, she saw the courtyard filled with children at play, laughter echoing, possibilities unfolding. She closed her eyes, feeling the presence of every person who had shaped her story and every lesson learned from hardship and grace. The golden necklace, once a mystery, now represented an unbreakable chain of love, connecting her to Chimamanda, Mama Ngozi, Chief Anduka, and even the city itself. In her heart, Amaka knew that every life she touched was a thread in the tapestry of change she had helped to weave. Though her path had begun on the streets, it had led to this, a place where hope thrived, hearts mended, and miracles grew from the smallest acts of courage. She smiled, ready to greet another day, knowing her greatest joys and challenges still lay ahead, and that her legacy would be one of love forever. With the hospital flourishing, Amaka began mentoring young people who reminded her so much of herself, full of dreams, yet haunted by the scars of hardship. Her compassionate approach drew students from distant towns eager to learn from her example. Amaka taught them that medicine was more than science. It was empathy, patience, and listening with an open heart. She hosted story nights in the hospital garden, where families would gather to share laughter, hopes, and the memories of those they'd lost. Chimamanda, now a teenager, performed songs and dances with friends, her radiant smile lifting everyone's spirits. Sometimes, Amaka felt overwhelmed by the weight of so many lives depending on her. But in those quiet moments, she would kneel in gratitude, thanking the universe for leading her from despair to a life in service of others. Her greatest reward was seeing hope reborn in the eyes of those she helped. One autumn evening, the city dedicated a new playground in Amaka's honor, on the very street where her story had begun. The mayor praised her resilience, and families crowded around as Chimamanda planted the first flower bed. Amaka watched children swing and laugh where she had once wandered, lonely and afraid. The lessons bloom. Tears stung her eyes, not of sadness, but immense gratitude for the way kindness could reshape fate. After the ceremony, a little girl approached and hugged her, whispering, "Someday I want to help others just like you." That innocent wish echoed in Amaka's heart. She understood now. Her journey had ignited 1,000 others. The playground became a symbol of hope in the city. And parents would tell their children about the brave girl who chose compassion over despair, and in doing so, rewrote the destiny of so many. As years rolled forward, Amaka found comfort in the quiet rhythms of her new life. She balanced hospital duties, speaking engagements, and personal time with her growing family. Mama Ngozi, older now but ever wise, found contentment as a beloved community grandmother. Her home filled with laughter and visitors seeking advice. Chief Anduka, proud and grateful, stood beside Amaka at every major event, their initial bond growing into mutual respect and deep affection. Chimamanda, blossoming into adulthood, prepared to study abroad, her mind as curious and generous as her sister's heart. Goodbyes felt bittersweet, but Amaka encouraged Chimamanda to embrace the world, promising that family and love would always be her anchor. In each change, Amaka drew strength from her roots and the conviction that even as seasons shifted, her story would continue to inspire. One evening, as Amaka tended to a patient late into the night, a familiar voice called at her office door. It was Chief Anduka, smiling gently. "You've made this place a home for so many," he told her, "and you've shown us all how to heal beyond medicine." They spoke of loss, legacy, and dreams yet to be fulfilled. Lessons bloom. Chief Anduka, his hair now silvered with age, expressed how Lady Chika's spirit lived on in both the daughter he found and the daughter he chose. They shared silent tears for old sorrows and quiet gratitude for the miracles that had blossomed from pain. As he left, Chief Anduka placed the golden necklace, Chimamanda's old keepsake, into Amaka's hand, urging her to keep it close as a reminder of the power of compassion. Alone, Amaka let the memories flow, her heart more open and whole than ever before. As Amaka grew older, her impact only deepened. Her hospital produced generations of compassionate doctors. Scholarships in her name empowered girls from distant villages to study, to dream, and to return as leaders. Former street children, once lost, now returned with families of their own, eager to volunteer and share what they had received. Chimamanda visited often, now a confident young woman whose global studies and insights brought new ideas to the city. Amaka, forever humble, spent her days listening, healing, and ensuring no one was left behind. In every grateful patient, every laughter-filled home, and every act of kindness sparked by her example, she saw reflections of her journey. The hardships endured, the hearts mended, the faith restored. In the city that once held her in shadows, Amaka's name became a living promise that no act of goodness was ever wasted.